What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and I am back from the NFL Draft. We're back home from Pittsburgh, and holy cow, what a weekend it was. What I want to do today is go through all the things I experienced while I was out at Pittsburgh. So for those of you that have never been to an NFL Draft, can understand what that's like. And then I'm obviously going to talk about all these picks the Jets made and what my reactions were to each pick, what I think about what the team's going to look like going forward, and just talk a little bit about some optimism and some pessimism coming out of this draft. So I'm really excited because, once again, the New York Jets have won the offseason. It was an incredible draft, and I think that there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that I'm going to talk about that's very positive. So I'm excited to dive into it. But first, let's talk a little bit about my experience going to the draft. So for those of you who have never been, this is a massive event now. The NFL Draft used to be an event where maybe 3,000 people would go because it's just in a little, studio at Radio City Music Hall where you can't fit everybody. There's like actual NFL people with phones that are calling in to say what the right draft pick's going to be. So there's not a lot of seats for fans. In this draft, they broke a record. There were 805,000 people that went into the draft area during the 3-day span that the draft was held in Pittsburgh. So I thought Pittsburgh did a great job. I thought it was really cool how there was like kind of a river cutting between the two areas of the draft. So you can like walk across a bridge. You could take a little ferry back and forth. And they had all the typical things that you would normally have at an NFL draft. They had things like running the 40-yard dash. They had like kicking a field goal. They had all these different stores that you can go buy draft memorabilia. You can go buy football cards. Topps was there, like all those types of folks. So it's a really cool place just for everyone to mingle. And of course, there's like beer halls everywhere. There's some great bars. Pittsburgh was a really cool city because there's some really cool areas that you can hang out in while you're there. But let's talk about my process of getting there. So I flew in Wednesday night. The draft is obviously Thursday through Saturday. So I flew in Wednesday night because I wanted to take in everything that's there Thursday. Thursday's the big day. You want to be there early on Thursday. So I go to fly in after work on Wednesday. I'm standing in line at the airport, and I'm waiting for my group. I got called to get on the plane. And as I'm waiting in line, I see Good Morning Football's Kyle Brandt walk towards me. And I love Kyle Brandt. I watch him all the time. I've seen him at multiple different drafts. I've met him a bunch of times. And I go, oh my God, Kyle Brandt, you can stand in front of me in line. Like, you're awesome. You deserve it. Stand in front of me. And he goes, no, I'll just stand right behind you. So I'm like, all right, fine. Stands behind me, and then it looks like he was talking on the phone, so he takes out his headphones, and he stops talking on the phone, and he starts talking to me. He's like, what's your name? Like, looks like you're a Jets fan. He's like, are you excited? I'm like, yeah, I'm pumped for this weekend because every time we go to the draft, it's like our Super Bowl, which this one is. This is a franchise-changing draft for us. We had 2 first-round picks going into it, 9 picks total in this draft. So, I'm pumped. I'm like, this is a big draft for us. And then he goes, man, that's great. Where are you from? All that good stuff. And he asked me, he's like, can I take a selfie with you? And I'm like, wait a minute, you want to take a selfie with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So he takes a selfie with me, and then eventually we get on the plane, and, I see him. I see Carl Banks is on my plane as well. So they were talking up a little bit. So it was cool. It was cool to interact. And then I get there. I go to my Airbnb, all that kind of stuff. I'm staying with 2 of my buddies, Evan and Rich, who Rich is a Giants fan, Evan's a Jets fan. You saw both of them on the previous pod on Thursday when we were previewing what we wanted to see from both of our teams going into Thursday night. So that was fun, and, got to hang out with those 2. Then Thursday morning comes, and we're getting ready to go to the draft area. It opens up at noon, so we're ready to go in, get some food, all that good stuff. And then one of my buddies actually texts me, and he goes, have you seen this? You're on Good Morning Football. And then there's a picture of me on there, and it's the selfie that I took with Kyle Brandt. And it turns out, he sends me the video. Kyle Brandt did a whole minute and a half segment on me being a Jets fan, caring so much about this draft, and him wanting the Jets to do well because he feels like, we've suffered a lot and the teams aren't doing well right now. And are the Jets going to be the saviors of New York? And so it was kind of cool getting called out on Good Morning Football the morning of the draft. And it's nice to be recognized. I do a lot of stuff going to the games and all that kind of stuff with this team. So it's cool to get a shout out on Good Morning Football. So shout out to Kyle Brandt. He's now automatically one of my favorite guys. So thank you, Kyle. But that was a very cool way to start everything off. And then from there we go to the draft, and we're bouncing around to all the different things that were going on. They actually had an area where you could walk into Acrisure Stadium. I know Steelers fan. I posted about this on Thursday. Steelers fans are like, that's Heinz Field. I'm like, okay, it's not called that, but I understand that it will always be Heinz Field to you, which totally makes sense. So I'm walking in there. They had like, I think 40-yard dashes, field goal kicks. They had this big booth set up for Tops where they had all their cards that they were selling and things like that. And they were giving autographs. So I think like Roethlisberger was in there, Charlie Batch, Jerome Bettis, a bunch of people. So that was kind of cool. And then at night, it starts to get to be around 4:30, 5 o'clock. It's time for me to go in. So I had tickets through NFL On Location. And a lot of people are asking me, how do you get tickets for the draft? The way you get tickets to get into the draft is very, very difficult. There's only so many people. I think this year there was only 14 spots for each team. So each team gets a little section. It's called the inner circle. Each people gets a little section with 14 seats. And the only way you can get those tickets are, number one, if you know somebody. Number two, if you win a contest, like the Jets ran a contest through their rewards program, through season tickets. So someone random won. I met the guy who won, which was really cool. He had his son with him. It was great. Or you are associated with one of the partners. So maybe Marriott gets you tickets, something like that. So you really have to get super lucky. And then the only other way outside of the inner circle that I know of that you can get tickets is if you know someone in the media, maybe like an ESPN and NFL Network that can get you a seat, or, which I've done in the past, or you buy tickets through NFL On Location. Now, NFL On Location will put you in a separate section a little bit to the right or to the left, depending on when the draft is. But you get all these perks with it. Now, it costs a lot of money, but you're going to get things like all you can eat, all you can drink. You're going to get some cool package of things. So I can tell you, I bought mine through NFL On Location because I knew I really wanted to be inside of the draft auditorium for this. I don't like standing in the back, and I knew this was an important draft. So I bought my ticket. They ended up giving you like a care package. It was like, you know, the company Away luggage, where they gave me a backpack from Away. Inside the backpack was like this little robotic like toy from Pittsburgh. There was a terrible towel with the NFL draft logos all over it. There was a radio so I can listen to the people that were actually announcing, which was really cool. And then there was food that they gave me in there. There was also a card to go get a Terry Bradshaw signed football, so I got that, which was really nice. And yeah, it's just a very cool experience. You get a nice comfy seat, and you get to sit there and watch. Now for me, since I've been there so many times, I know that when the Jets are about to pick, I just sneak my way down into the inner circle, and I just go stand with everybody there. It's not really sneaking. Like, you're allowed to go down there because you can interact with everybody, but you just got to make sure you stay out of the aisles so I don't hurt anybody or anything like that. So I did that for every Jets pick. And I got to hang out with all the great guys from the Jets. First of all, shout out to Jason and Nadej from the Jets, who are just awesome. Every draft they're there. I love hanging out with them. They're the two nicest people in the world, and they just make the experience really wonderful for everybody who's there from Jets Nation. So shout out to those two. Mikey Holcans was there, who's one of my good buddies, and he was all over TV. You did not miss him if you were watching the draft this week with his big Holcans. He is amazing. Johnny Boy was able to weasel his way in, I think, late in the first round, so I got to hang out with him, which was awesome. Lou B., who's all over the Jake Asman show, Jets Worldwide. He's all over the place. He was a great guy. It was great to meet him, get to hang with him in person. And yeah, it was Boy Green was there too. He was in the crowd, so it was really cool to hang out with all those guys. Court, she was awesome from TikTok. I see her everywhere. Her and her dad were hanging out, and she got some good videos, so she was great. So yeah, it was a really good time, and you know, the Jets are up at number 2. And for me, I, of course, weaseled my way into the inner circle. I'm standing around the end, and we make our pick, and I'm all over TV, all that kind of stuff, which, you know, is typical when you're there. There's only 14 of you, so you're going to naturally get on TV at some point. And David Bailey gets picked, walks right over to the group, and who's standing on the end is me. And the first person he daps up, and they told me not to touch the prospects, but he comes up to me ready to dap me up, and he does. So it was cool to be the first person to welcome David Bailey to the New York Jets, and it's kind of amazing that this guy's, 22 years old, maybe 23 years old, and being that massive when he walks into the crowd with all of us. He swallowed me up when he gave me a high five. So it was really funny. But let's talk about all the picks. So obviously at pick number 2, I go into it really excited that I think it's going to be Arvell Reese. The reason why I wanted Arvell Reese, I felt that the upside was so high, and he was super flexible at where he could play. Play him an off-ball linebacker. You could play him at edge, And obviously, he had a lot to learn about being an edge, but you've got one of the best defensive line coaches in the league, and Carl Dunbar, on your squad now, and you got Aaron Glenn calling plays. So you felt like you can put him in a position to do really well. So that's why I wanted Arvell Reese. But I understood the other side of it was, well, he's never been an edge before, so what happens if it doesn't work out? And he never took as many snaps at edge. And do you really want to spend the number 2 overall pick on an off-ball linebacker because of positional value? I totally understood those arguments. Now, on the other side of it, I also liked David Bailey. David Bailey is a really good pass rusher. He's the best pass rusher in the draft. He can go out there and get you sacks. I think in 2025 he had, 14 and a half sacks. He's gotten better and better every year. He was at Stanford, so there's some connection between Frank Reich and the guys that Frank brought over and him, because Frank Reich was coaching Stanford last year, and he was a part of, obviously, that organization. So, there was a lot of good there. And he also played for Texas Tech in 2025, which was one of the best defenses in college football. So you feel good about him. My thing was, he's not very, he's competitive against the run, but he's not a run stuffer. But the good news is the Jets paid for a lot of run stuffers in free agency. So I was a little surprised when the pick was David Bailey. Was I upset it was Bailey? No. I was pumped. I'm like, great, we're going to have someone else off the edge on the other side of Will McDonald that can get 10 sacks. So now both tackles are going to be in trouble when it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Now the big deal is the Jets have to get these teams to 3rd and 7 plus, 3rd and 5 plus, which was a disaster last year. We couldn't stop the run, so everybody had 3rd and 1s, or they weren't even getting to 3rd down. And that's why Will McDonald didn't have the production you were used to. So I think he was a really good pick. He needs to be a guy, though, that has to play a lot. I want to see him on the field as much as possible next year, which just makes it a little confusing with Kingsley on the team and Joseph Asai and all that kind of stuff. How are they going to mix these guys in? But this is the number 2 overall pick in the draft. He better play, and he better play often. So I want to see him get better and better over this year, going into 2027 when, we're stock loaded with first-round picks again, and we can really make this team one of the best teams in football. So very excited about David Bailey, and he also seems like a pretty good guy. I know that there were some issues previously, I think it was with him, with some character stuff, but it sounds like that's all been cleaned up and there haven't really been any problems. So I was happy. I was happy with Bailey. Now, like I said, I would have preferred Reese. But then you see Reese fall to pick 5, and the Giants are just sitting there like, well, we didn't think he was going to be here, but we got to take him now because he's one of the best players. He's probably one of the best defensive players in the draft. He falls to us, you might as well just take him. And then you figure out where to play him after that. Because, you're not going to have Burns, Thibodeau, and Carter forever. So you got to keep the rotation going. So I think the Giants did a good move taking Reese. So pick number 1, I was happy, but I would have preferred Reese. So we'll give that pick probably up. It's a positive grade. I would say it's, an A, B plus pick. Could have been an A plus if it was Arvell Reese in my mind. So then you're watching the draft fall. And there's stuff happening all over the place. There's trades like crazy. Teams are moving up, moving back. Ty Simpson goes in the first 16 picks, which was shocking. But it was funny. Me and my buddy Evan were getting interviewed outside the draft by a guy from Ty Simpson's hometown. And he was interviewing fans of teams that may pick Ty Simpson. And he interviewed us, and afterward, we just told him, we're like, hey, you're from his hometown. What do you think is actually going to happen? And he's like, well, there was a meeting with McVay. I think he's going to go 16. I think he's going to go to the Rams at 13. You look out for that. I bet that's what's going to happen. And then, boom, he was right. So that guy nailed it, and I'm not surprised. Ty Simpson probably wouldn't have been at the draft if he didn't know he was going early in the first round. So that really pushed a lot of people down the board. So we're sitting there at 16. We're all going nuts because we're like, Mekhi Lemon is sitting here on the board at 16. We need one of the top 3 wide receivers so badly. So we're sitting there and we're like, all right, this is the moment. And for me, one of the big issues that would have come in this draft is if we took Sadiq over Lemon and then we had no number 2 receiver. And then what happens? I was shocked, blown away. The Jets pick Kenyon Sadiq. Now for me, I am going through a range of emotions. I was so up and so down. Where Bailey, I was like, I love him, but I don't love him as much as Reese. And then Sadiq, I was like, I really didn't want another tight end because we just spent draft capital on a tight end last year in Mason Taylor. And I'm excited about Mason Taylor. So then I'm in panic mode after we draft Sadiq. I'm like, I know he's a really good player. I know he's an athletic freak. And I know he's going to make the team better. But who's playing receiver for us? And that's where the panic set in. So then I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And then you watch, of course, one of the smartest organizations in the league, the Philadelphia Eagles, jump up over the Steelers to take Mekhi Lemon, and the Steelers are left getting I think they took a tackle, a Maxi Onacher, a guard. Um, so I was like, there you go. The smart team takes the smart player. And I've heard some rumors that Mekhi Lemon didn't have great interviews, and specifically the Jets were one of them, so I could see that being an issue. And Sadiq's a great guy. Like, everything you hear about is he's an awesome dude. Um, but I'm like, I wanted the receiver. Then we start to get down to the end of the draft. I'm like, should I just leave? Like, this draft's almost over. We got to do this again tomorrow. We'll be at pick 33. Then you see the notification that the Jets trade back up into the first round to take a guy who I would have been okay taking at 16 in Omar Cooper Jr. So I thought that was a great move. It was very, what's the word? There was a lot of finesse in it by Muji to move up and make that move. And I'm pumped about Omar Cooper. I think he could be a great number 2 receiver. I know the Badlands guys compared him to Lavernius Coles, which I think is a great comparison. I would love a Lavernius Coles on this team. Most people are saying he could play the slot, is that's where he might live, but I think he can do both. He can play outside, he can play inside. Garrett can move into the slot and then move back outside. Sadiq can play the slot while Garrett and Cooper are on the outside. And then you got A.D. Mitchell that can just run deep because he's got the speed. So I'm actually very excited about the way this worked out. Now, in my mind, I was like, don't take a tight end at 16. But if you just flip the picks, if you pretend in your head that we took Cooper at 16 and Sadiq at 30, I feel like this is a home run. So as long as I get over that mindset in my mind, I'm very happy with the way it worked out. Because now you've got weapons all over the place for Geno Smith, whoever our next quarterback is going to be in 2027. You feel like you're building a team that's ready to not hold back a quarterback like a Zach Wilson or a Sam Darnold, where we actually have players that can play and make some plays for whoever this next quarterback is going to be. So just talking about both prospects, Sadiq, the initial comparison he got was Dustin Keller, which I loved Dustin Keller. I don't know a Jets fan out there who didn't love Dustin Keller, and it's so sad the way he got hurt and his career ended. But Sadiq is very interesting because he's not as tall as Mason Taylor or Jeremy Ruckert, and not going to block as well. But think about this part. He's as tall as like a Julio Jones. He can jump as high as like a Dez Bryant. He is as fast as Jonathan Taylor. His fastest speed was as fast as Jahmyr Gibbs last year. It's like, who is going to, and he's 240 pounds. Like, who is going to be able to block and cover this guy? So, and I think he had, 50 catches last year, 560 yards, which was a school record for a tight end for Oregon. I'm just wondering, like, what can we do in the NFL when, like, a tight end is kind of a very important piece to an offense? So I'm really excited to see how this all plays out, where they play him, how they utilize him and the other 2 tight ends we have with Ruckert and Mason Taylor. I'm curious, do they just move Ruckert to the fullback position, get rid of Andrew Beck, and we just keep that as our fullback / tight end and, keep that rotation going? So very interested to see how this all plays out. I'm excited to have both Sadiq and Taylor. I think it's going to be really interesting. And the one thing that holds me back a little bit is we have never really been that creative of an offense. I don't know what Frank Reich's going to bring around having these 2 tight ends, but this is where the NFL's going. You look at some of the good teams in the league, they have 2 really good tight ends. The Patriots have always had that. The Bills have the 2 good tight ends. There's just like so much utilization of the tight end position all across the league. And you look at like the Bears right now, another great pair of 2 tight ends. You look across the league too, these early round pick tight ends have worked out really well. You look at Tyler Warren, had a great year last year. Brock Bowers is awesome for the Raiders. You look at Loveland. Loveland was great last year. So you wonder if Sadiq can be the next guy to take their offense to the next level. And you think about the weapons you have on the field now for the New York Jets. You got Geno Smith at quarterback. That is the big question mark. You got Brees at running back, who Muji should be working on that extension pretty soon. And then you go with Garrett Wilson, who is bona fide number 1 receiver. I don't care what John Gruden says. He's the number 1 receiver. You got A.D. Mitchell, who can also send it deep, blow the top off of defense. Omar Cooper in the slot and that can move around. And then you've got Sadiq and Mason Taylor. That's pretty good. And then you got 2 first-round tackles. You've got Joe Tippmann, who should get an extension pretty soon. And then you're just questioning the left guard and center. Otherwise, you feel like you've got a very built-out offense that could score points. And all I've ever wanted to do, as a Jets fan over the past 15 years is score points. We haven't been able to do it. 2015 was the last time we had fun as an offense. Let's have fun as an offense again. And I think this is a great way. So shout out to Darren Muji for trading up. And let's just look at that trade. So he trades up with the 49ers. He gives up pick 33 and a 5th round pick to move up 3 spots to get Omar Cooper. And he's a 1st round pick now. So you get that 5th year option, which is great. So nice work by Muji. Then we go to bed. We're happy. We're celebrating. We're just like listening to cool podcasts about how great we are. And everyone, Kirk Herbstreit saying we're awesome, which was great. Then you go into the second round. Second round, obviously we gave up pick 33, so we don't have that one anymore. And then we have pick 44. So you go to pick 44, and I'm kind of looking around. There's some great safeties left. There were some great linebackers left. There was some good corners left. And I'm like, are they going to go, I don't know, another offensive player? There was a couple guards on the board. Pregnon was still there. And then you look, you see Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker, goes right before the Jets pick with the Dolphins. So at 44, what did the Jets decide to do? They decided to trade back because I think they felt good about the talent that was on the board, and this guy that they pick was still going to be there. So the Jets trade with the Detroit Lions. They trade pick 44 to the Lions for pick 50 and pick 128. So you get a 2nd and a 4th for a 2nd, which is a really good, that's good business by Darren Muji. And who do they take at pick 44? A guy at pick 50, a guy that I never thought they were going to take. They take D'Angelo Ponz. And I know that there are so many rumors about Ponz because he is literally the clone of Aaron Glenn. He's 5'8", 182 pounds, and I think he's a little bit faster than Aaron Glenn too. So he's like literally exactly like him. The reason I didn't think we were ever going to take him was because in Aaron Glenn's first press conference, what did he say? He said, I like corners who are tall and long. And that is the total opposite of D'Angelo Ponz. But what's great about Ponz is he is technically sound. He gets interceptions. He's got that dog in him where he's going to make tackles in the run game. He's not going to be intimidated by some of the bigger receivers. One thing that was called out pretty constantly is that one of the bigger receivers in the draft, Denzel Boston, was probably one of the tallest competition that Ponz played against, and he shut him down for most of the game. So really impressive dude. Obviously a national champion as well with Indiana. He had that pick 6 in the semifinal game against Oregon to start that game too. And of course, every Jet fan was locked in watching Dante Moore, and boom, Ponz is the first person we recognize. So I think this is the pick and the player that everyone is going to love. For me, as someone who is also 5'8", he gives me hope that I am an athlete, even though I absolutely am not. So I'm going to be rooting for him like crazy. And I love listening to the Badlands guys, as you know. One of the things that they said was DJ Reed being a potential comparison for D'Angelo Ponz. So I'm really excited about him. And you look at that corner room now, you've got some actual talent. You've got Brandon Stevens, obviously, who's probably going to be cornerback 1. You got Azareye'h Thomas, 3rd-round pick from last year. You got D'Angelo Ponz, who could play in the slot, could play outside. You got Nashawn Wright, who we just signed from the Bears, who was a Pro Bowler. Very hit or miss, though, in terms of he'll make a big play, but then give up a big play. Then you've got Jarvis Brownlee, who can play the slot, who we traded with from the Titans. And now you don't have to put this much pressure on him to be the starter if he can't handle it. So I feel really good about where we're at here with D'Angelo Ponz. And like I said, he's going to be everyone's favorite. Now you look at these first 2 days of the draft. Obviously, we didn't have a 3rd-round pick because of the Hassan Reddick trade, which we'll never talk about again. But you look, you walk away from day 2 with David Bailey, Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper, D'Angelo Ponz. And where did these players come from? You got David Bailey from Texas Tech, who made the college football playoff. You got Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, who made the college football playoff. And then you got 2 players from the national champion Indiana Hoosiers, who you never thought you'd be saying in your life, but we did take 2 Indiana Hoosiers who are going to turn around our team. And they come from an organization that has been turned around. So if there's any comparison between a college team and an NFL team, it's Indiana and the New York Jets as a team that needs to make a massive comeback to be a relevant team again. So very excited with the way the first 2 rounds went. Then you go into round 4. And we had some early pick. We had 3 picks in the 4th round going into it. And there were some really good players on the board. I'm looking at, I see a center, and Connor Lew is still on the board. There were some good linebackers, some good safeties. There were just players all across the board. And what do the Jets do at pick 103, which was the third pick in the fourth round? The Jets go Darrell Jackson Jr., defensive tackle from Florida State. Massive, massive human being. 6'5", 315 pounds. And he is the nephew of Dexter Jackson, who was a Super Bowl MVP for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you guys remember that from back in the day. I think he had 3 interceptions in the Super Bowl or something like that. It was insane. One of the good trivia questions is Dexter Jackson, so don't forget about him. So this is a big guy who looks like he can be a rotational piece with a David Onyemata and a Tavondre Sweat. Remember, we're moving to a 3-4 defense, which means you need these big, beefy, fat players in the middle that are super athletic and can get after the running back and just clog up some big holes. And that's what this guy is. Now, I think there were some negatives in his game where he stands up too much every now and then. He stands up too tall. He loses leverage every now and then. He doesn't have a lot in the pass rush game. He's more of a run stuffer, which is totally fine. And I think as a fourth-round pick, he's going to be a rotational piece because you got David Onyemata, who's getting a little bit older, and he's only here on a one-year deal. You got Tavondre Sweat, where another massive human being who probably going to need to take some breaks and need to rotate. You got Harrison Phillips, who's getting a little bit older. You've got Briggs, who's only on a one-year deal. So the question is, like, who's the depth that we're training? And that's going to be Darrell Jackson. So excited to get a guy like this. And he's not someone who was on my radar going into this draft, but I think he fits what Aaron Glenn's been looking to do when you look at the types of people that we've brought in over the past few months through free agency. So happy to have Darrell Jackson Jr. on the team. Then comes the next one. Oh, this was a big one. In round 4, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we trade up to pick 110 with the Cincinnati Bengals, and we give up 2 fourth-rounders, pick 128 and 140. First of all, I'm like, oh my God, we just gave up 2 fourth-rounders. This better be someone good. We're probably taking a center, or we're going to take someone that we badly need because we know they're going to get taken before they get to pick 128. So I'm like, oh my God. And then I've got a 6th-round pick back too, so I won't ignore that part. But who do we end up taking? Probably the guy I least expected on planet Earth to take in this spot in the 4th round. Cade Klubnik, quarterback from Clemson, 6'2", 207. For me, this was a tough one. This was a tough one because, one, my sister went to Clemson, so we watch a lot of Clemson football. And watching him this year was not a joy to watch. He was a very tough watch. It feels like all the hype that was going into this year about him kind of just swirled down the drain. And the big thing that I really didn't like about it is, like, if you want to take Cade Klubnik, I'm fine with taking him. Like I've been saying from the beginning, take a swing at a quarterback. Just take a swing because we need one, and you never know when someone might hit. You never know if Cade Klubnik can become our new backup quarterback for the next 5 to 7 years, and he'll be cheaper than paying someone like a Tyrod Taylor. The problem is the trade. I don't know anyone who was taking Cade Klubnik this early. He was probably a 6th-round pick, and this reminds me so much of the Arian Smith pick last year, where you're taking someone in a spot where you could have waited a long time. So it's like burning picks, essentially, and I don't like, especially a 4th-round pick that could be a starter. And everyone's like, oh my God, you can't, like, 4th-round picks don't matter. They do matter. The reason why some of these great teams in the NFL do really well is because their 4th-round picks hit, and we never have them hit. So I want to have enough swings where I can get a 4th-round or 5th-round pick to hit that's cheaper, good depth, and can actually contribute. You look at some of the best teams we've ever had in history, and they had great 4th-round picks. Joe Klecko was like a 6th-round pick. You look at one of my favorite players of all time, Kerry Rhodes, I think was a 4th or 5th-round pick. Lavernius Coles was a 3rd-round pick. You look at Michael Carter, who was great in the slot for us these past couple years, was a 5th-round pick. So we shouldn't be burning these guys. I mean, look at Brad Smith, Leon Washington. There's just so many examples. So I just don't love the idea of burning a 4th-round pick to trade for a guy who probably still would have been there in the 5th and 6th round. Now, on to Cade Klubnik. Obviously, going into 2025, he was one of the top prospects in this potential draft. Everyone thought he was going to be a 1st-round pick. He's got good legs. He can move. He can run. He has moments where he has some really nice passes. If you watch 2024, he looks pretty good. But sometimes he just makes some pretty terrible decisions, loses accuracy, and he's all over the place. So, I don't know. I'm not really pumped about this pick. I like the fact that we took a swing. Cade Klubnik could be fine. I just don't think he was good for the fourth round. I thought it was bad value. So that's like my F pick. And I don't know why Darren Muji keeps doing this. It just feels like once we get to day 3, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West out there, and we kind of just let anybody make any picks they want. Like, oh, who's your favorite player? All right, we'll just take him here. And this is definitely a Frank Reich player based on his size and things like that. So I'm going to move on from Cade Klubnik, but not pumped about it. And then we go through a long wait. Now, luckily, we drafted Cade Klubnik while I was still in Pittsburgh, got on a flight, got home, and was still home in time to see the rest of the draft before our next pick came in. So in round 6, I think we also traded up here too. So in round 6, we trade up with the Seattle Seahawks. We traded pick 199 and 242, our 7th, to Seattle for 188. And we take guard from Miami, Inez Cooper, another massive, massive human being, 6'5", 334 pounds. And honestly, this guy could actually play for us. Like, I think this is a 6th-round pick that could work out, where he's so big. We don't really have a lot of like mean street kind of guys on the team anymore. Like we have Olu and Membu and Tippmann. They're all really nice guys. And Jason Myers and Josh Myers, who's a super nice guy. And then we just get Parham, and we don't really know how Parham's going to work out. This guy's like a dirty player, which I love. He likes to trash talk. If you saw that video of him with all his Miami players, which I thought was great. The problem is a great guard when you're running the ball. Pass protection, not so great. So like I haven't watched a ton of him, obviously, so I'm listening to what other people are saying about him, what they like and don't like. Sounds like he's going to struggle a little bit with pass protection, but you know, we've had guards in the like Parham is probably going to struggle with pass protection. So I don't know. I'm like kind of interested to see if he could take one of the backup offensive lineman spots, even though he's a 6th-round pick. And we have not had many depth offensive line pieces worked, so I'm really hoping this one can stand out. And then finally, another one of my favorite picks in the draft, in round 7, pick 228, the Jets take safety VJ Payne from Kansas State, 6'3", 206. This guy is huge, 6'3", 200 pounds. He can fly. I think he's like a 4'3" or 4'4" in the 40. Unbelievable. I'm like excited to get a guy who I thought was probably a top 10 safety in the 7th round. Like, this is a guy who could actually contribute on special teams for us. He can actually make the team, especially with our safety room being a little up in the air. Like, you got Minkah Fitzpatrick. You got Dane Belton, who's like a big special teams guy. I don't know how great he's going to be as a safety. We'll see. He can tackle really well. We know that. You got Malachi Moore, who we've only seen 1 year of him. We don't know how he's going to turn out. You got Andre Sisco, who was kind of a disaster last year. So I'm wondering if VJ Payne can actually make the squad and be a depth player for us as a round 7 pick. This is like not a typical round 7, it feels like. It feels like we've been, like round 7, we have burned round 7 picks many a time before. So I'm really excited to get VJ Payne. I think he's going to be a really fun one to watch. And once again, I'm going to go through this whole thing. In my mind, if I just flip the Cade Klubnik and Inez Cooper pick, or if I flip Cade Klubnik and VJ Payne, I feel a lot better about this draft. Because like then you're just taking a swing on Cade, and you know, hopefully you're not burning those 4th-round picks. So that is the Jets draft. I mean, for me, overall, I'm very excited. I think the Jets are a lot better of a football team after this draft and free agency than we were last year. I think we're actually going to compete in some games. Now, are we going to be one of the best teams in the league? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we're even going to be a playoff team. But I am saying that I feel a lot better, that the team's going to be a lot more fun, a lot better to root for than they have been in this previous year. And, you know, once again, you look at the pattern. You got a guy from Miami. You got a guy from Clemson. You got Florida State. You got Indiana. You got Oregon. You got Texas Tech. It's all big programs, all winning programs. And I'm excited to see how it all pans out over the next few months. So I think rookie minicamp is coming up over the next couple weeks. The Jets signed, I believe, about 10 undrafted free agents. There was no one on there that really popped. There was a kicker from BYU that was interesting, running back from Toledo, which was pretty good. Actually, there was one guy, an edge player from Ball State. Let me just look up the Jets' undrafted free agents again so I can call out their names. Nathan Voorhis from Ball State. I think he's my new favorite player. This dude grew up a Jets fan. He posted a picture saying, I forgot exactly what he said, but he said like the prophecy has been fulfilled or something like that. And now he is an undrafted free agent who will be inside a training camp with us. So I'm really excited for him. I love stories like that. So I'm going to be rooting for that guy for sure. But overall, really good stuff. Over the next few days, what I'm going to do is probably do a couple short form videos on my favorite drafts, not just Jets, like favorite drafts from the 2026 drafts by team. I'll do my least favorite as well. And then maybe I'll do a couple highlights on some of these guys so that everyone can learn a little bit more about them. But I've gone 30 minutes. I don't want to go any longer than this. This was an awesome, awesome weekend. I love the draft and I can't wait. I know it's a little bit of a downtime over the next couple months, but I cannot wait for football to get back so I can see all these guys in action on the field. So thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. If you can follow me, we need to get these subscribers up. If you can like, rate, subscribe, review, JuicyJet25 across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And yeah, I'd really appreciate it. So thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the draft as much as I did. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to y'all later. See ya, and go Jets.